division has enjoyed a glamorous history. In the 20s and the early 30s, the title belonged to Mickey Walker. Amazingly, Mickey Walker once fought a heavyweight, Jack Sharkey, to a 10-round draw. Sharkey went on to win the heavyweight title.
He fought some great fighters. He won welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight championship.
In the 40s, the man of steel, Tony Zale, fought 3 of the most brutal fights in boxing history with another pretty good middleweight, Rocky Graziano. Zale won twice.
That was the greatest era of all times because the fighters that fought in the 40s grew up in the 30s during the Depression. And there were more fighters fighting at that time than any time in the history of boxing.
In the 50s, Sugar Ray Robinson brought class to his division and to the sport. He fought Jake LaMotta 7 times. This one coined the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
I remember saying before the fight to the commissioner and everything, I don't want the fight stopped under any condition. I'm prepared to die. I fought Sugar so many times. It's a wonder I don't have diabetes. Sugar Ray Robinson probably is the greatest fighter pound for pound that ever lived.
In the 70s, Argentinian Carlos Monzon burst into the record books with a 7-year dominance of the middleweight division. During that time, he ran up an impressive string of 82 consecutive wins and 14 defenses of his crown.
Bueno, la verdad que yo me considero uno
I don't know if you could say that I am the best. I know that I'm one of the 5 best of all time.
And they'll let him box with Joe Frazier. And he knocked out Joe Frazier in the gym. I believe he would have been champion on any era of time.
And now in the 80s, a new middleweight champion. Marvelous Marvin Haglar wants to challenge them all. After a 3-year reign and 6 title defenses, he aspires to be the best ever in this division.
You have just seen the greatest middleweights of all time. Tonight, you'll see the marvelous one.
Marvelous Marvin Haglar defends his crown against Wilford Scypion. We're live in Providence, Rhode Island, as you look at the State House of the nation's smallest state. And just a few blocks away sits the Providence Civic Center, where tonight HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing. The main event, the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Marvelous Marvin Haglar, defends his crown against the #1 contender, Wilford Scypion. All of New England has adopted Marvelous Marvin Haglar, as evidenced by the near sellout crowd here in Providence. And his popularity worldwide seems to build with every fight. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins. Sugar Ray Leonard, so much a part of our HBO Championship Boxing broadcast, unable to be with us tonight. He is recovering in his Maryland home from minor surgery. We wish him the very best. But playing the part of Sugar Ray Leonard tonight, our own heavyweight champion, Larry Merchant. And Larry, we have seen some of the great middleweights down the line, and of course, a conversation that we had in Worcester, Marvin Haglar's last fight. Where does he stand amongst them all? It's still too early to tell, I know, but there's always a lot of speculation. How good is Marvin Haglar?
Well, I think it's a little premature to bronze him and send him to that great Hall of Fame in the sky just yet. I think it's enough to say he's an outstanding fighter. He's destroyed his division. He's by far and away the best man middleweight around. He may be the best middleweight champion since Monzon. Pound for pound, he may be the best fighter around today. When you go to see Marvelous Marvin Haglar fight, you go to see a performance more than a contest.
All right, it was about 2 weeks ago that Marvelous Marvin Haglar was running hills at his Provincetown, Massachusetts training camp when he felt a pain. It was a pain he'd had before, but this time, worse.
My lateral movement, side to side, is where it was hurting me. You know, I could go forward, but forward and backwards in a straight line after the first couple of days. but then I couldn't get any lateral movement. I couldn't go around my opponent, you know, and either way it just hurt. Just feel like it wants to just give out, like, you know, because of the pain. It was just shoot.
Barry, Marvin has had a problem with the popliteus tendon. This is a tendon that's located in the outside of his left knee. This is a sketch of his left lower extremity. This is a blow-up of the knee joint itself. The popliteus tendon is this area here, and that's its muscle. When that muscle contracts, it primarily rotates the lower leg inwardly on the upper leg. This caused quite a bit of problem with lateral movement, his forward movement to the left.
My championship is on the line. This is everything to me. Why go in there and gamble? Sure, I could have went in there, but why, in a sense, to make excuses afterwards, talk about my knee or whatever? Myself, I want to go in there 100%.
There is another issue at hand, and that is the non-sanctioning of this fight by the sports governing bodies, the WBA and the WBC. The bottom line of it all, nobody really cares.
The fans watching the fight will see the same fight, whether it's sanctioned by the WBC or the WBA. I think what really happened is that the Americans have finally said enough. I mean, that silly little man named Jose Suleiman taking millions of dollars out of this country for sanctioning fights, not paying any taxes on it, not accounting for the funds, telling us how to run boxing. I think that's enough. I think this new organization, which will be based in the United States, which, by the way, has support from around the world, from the English, from the Koreans, from the Argentines, from the Italians. This will be the coming force in boxing. Hopefully they won't be quite as silly, but certainly they'll account for the money and pay taxes.
Well, Larry Merchant, we've heard all the letters, WBA, WBC, USBIA, LSMFT. What does it all mean right now?
Well, every time I hear one of these alphabet wars in sport, I feel like singing what my 2-year-old daughter does. Now I've said my ABCs, won't you sing along with me? Let me try to clarify it as mercifully briefly as I can. The Latin Americans who control the WBC and the WBA have made some increasingly arbitrary rulings recently, and there are charges that they have been exacting large amounts of money from promoters for getting ratings and for permitting fights to go on, and the Americans are beginning to rebel. Be that as it may, we have to remember that all commissioners everywhere, in America or foreign, are political appointees who make modest amounts of money, and they're dealing in fights that are worth millions and millions, so they're all subject to corruption, bribes, and whatever, and I don't see any reason that it would be any better here than abroad.
So Marvin Haglar tonight will go into the ring looking for a couple of other letters. KO. He's managed to do that. His last 6 title defenses. He is a guy who, it seems, has been fighting his entire life. First to escape his environment, then for respect, and now he is fighting for recognizability and getting it. Of an American slum. Its eerie tranquility of today is a sharp contrast to the riots of 16 years ago. For 5 long days, Newark was a tragic battleground. The streets were a playground for looters and snipers, and families survived by becoming prisoners in their own homes. Among the survivors of that siege was a 13-year-old boy. His name was Marvin Haglar.
It was scary, like the end of the world. And you used to hear the neighbors downstairs, neighbors upstairs, all come over and they all talk about what had happened last night. Somebody got killed over there, or they robbed some furniture store across the street.
A few people guided Marvin through those difficult times. One of the strongest was his grandmother, Bessie.
She was the type of woman that really pushed me, I guess, to try to become somebody, you know. If we needed money on Saturdays or something like that, I would go over, either scrub the floors for her, or either take the trash out, just so that she'd give me some movie money or something like that, you know, so I wouldn't have to be out in the street trying to get it any other kind of way, you know.
When he go with me, well, he's out of trouble, then I talk to him and tell him about the trouble you could get in following bad boys. So he wasn't no trouble to me. He was all right. He minded me, and still do.
Another guiding force in marvelous Marvin Haglar's childhood was revealed in a recent cover story in Sports Illustrated. At the time, Marvin was a loner in desperate need of some direction. Haglar was reaching out when Mr. Joe reached in. I haven't seen him since I was a kid. but I've been trying to find the guy for a long time. I do believe that one day he'll show up. We found Mr. Joe outside Newark. In the 60s, he organized sports programs for ghetto kids like Marvin.
When he first came down, he was pounding at the door, and I opened the door, and there Marvin was with a blue T-shirt and slacks on and a sheepish grin on his face. Marvin had the fortitude. He's something about the kid. I mean, he didn't want to be here. He wanted out. He wanted out so bad he could taste it.
And I believe in the beginning, my drive and determination all came from New Jersey. I take my kids back there and I show them, even my daughter goes, gee, Daddy, how could you live in a place like this, you know? But at the time when you're young, you don't know a better place.
You know, nobody could do it for him. Just like nobody can do anything for any of these other kids unless they do it themselves. All I was there for Marvin